Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. So I'm out here in LA with Greg. You guys might remember Greg from season 2, episode 22, and it was No More Heartbreak in LA.
Yes.
And last time you were on, you were just sharing about getting over a relationship, like moving out to LA and how you went through that whole process. By the way, I'm really loving LA.
Okay.
Like every time I come to LA, I'm like, should I move to LA? Like there's just that and Atlanta are probably the two cities where every time I go, I'm like, should I live there? I should just move there, right?
The thing is with LA is it's very difficult to make it here. We get
in terms of what make it like how like work wise and financially.
Yeah, work wise and financially, just getting on your feet. You know, there's so many people throughout the country, even the world, that moves to LA. And
yeah.
So you've got this overpopulation that occurs, and a lot of people, not a lot of people, but you know, some people live out of their cars just to get started. They're being waiters, waitresses, and you know, the city of LA actually banned people living in their cars for a while. Where
Seriously?
They actually ticket you.
I mean, that's your car and you own it. So, like, I don't see a reason that you shouldn't be able to be in your car. Like, I think that's fine. If that's what you got to do and it's your car, go right ahead.
Well, what was happening was people were parking in residential neighborhoods and neighbors could tell that they were sleeping in their car and they're there overnight. And so they thought it was like a safety thing. And so they start griping. And before you know it, the city put a regulation on that. So,
well, I made it in New York, so I think I should be able to make it here.
Yeah.
I was at the Target earlier over by USC. It's USC that's right there, right? Yeah, USC.
USC.
And it was like all college kids, and they were getting ready for like the first week of school. And I was like, oh, I miss college. But I miss college because I went to college in a really weird way. Like I went for a year, and then in that year I lived at home, and then I went to Iraq for like 2 years, and then I came back and tried to like finish up 3 years in like one. And so like I just never had that experience. And now I see all these college kids. I'm like, man, I kind of miss it.
I remember that. I remember you went to the U of M. We went to the same school.
But I barely went.
Yeah, I knew
people didn't know I went.
You graduated. Like, you went to the U.
Exactly. Like I was there, but not really there.
Yeah,
Is there anything you wish in life that you could like redo or do over, like I do college?
Yeah, college especially. I wish I would have went to an HBCU, or I wish I would have got outside of Minnesota, because that's a perfect time to go explore and go somewhere different and just discover yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I did the safe thing and stayed in Minnesota, stayed in my little radius.
Yeah, same.
I wish I would have went south.
Well, you're out here in LA now, so you made it out.
Yeah, I did. It's tough. It's tough to make it out here, but I made it.
So, Greg, a couple months ago, I was on Facebook or Instagram, and I'm just scrolling my feed. And then I think you posted a picture of a child, and you were like, I'm a dad now. And I was like, wait, what? And then that's when I had to do the thing where I go to somebody's profile, and then I scroll back.
You did it.
And I'm like, well, when I didn't see the progression to the child. I just saw, because, you know, usually you'll see a progression where it's like, we're pregnant, we're about to deliver, we're 30 some weeks. But I was like, no, I swear last time I saw him, he was just single. And now I see a child. So what happened between last year when you were on, which was like a little over a year ago? Again, that was season 2, episode 22. Check it out. Then check out this episode if you haven't listened yet. Right? So it was like last June.
Yeah, it was probably about 14, 15 months ago.
Yeah.
Right.
So what has transpired in your life between then and now? Like, tell me more.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about that. The last podcast that I was on, I talked about a lot of heartbreak, and I was in this transition, and some things happened, some unexpected things happening, like a pregnancy that happened when we weren't together, and through that caused the baby. And
was this somebody you were dating?
Yeah, it was actually ex. It was actually the ex I was talking about on the podcast.
Oh wow!
Wow, yeah, yeah. A lot of dramatics with that, right? But yeah, that's
wow.
I don't even know where even to begin with that.
So were you guys just like trying to redate, or this was just sort of a one time?
A lot had happened, and if you go back to that podcast, it was just a lot that happened, and I was tore up about a lot of that stuff. But she reached back out to me when I was just still going through the healing process and trying to figure myself out. And I think happens with a lot of people where, they gravitate towards things that they're familiar with, no matter the circumstances, right? And so, especially if there was still feelings there, or you just the remnants of some of those bigger feelings, and especially if you were in love with that person. And so I think a lot of that impacted that decision to let her back in for that period of time, even though I knew I wasn't ready to jump back into a relationship, but just hung around for a little bit. And
when she came back in, she wanted to date again. That was her purpose.
Yeah, she thought she made a fatal mistake and was just asking for forgiveness and if we could try again. And I was so anti not doing that, but at the same time,
now if I recall, she had left. Had she left you for somebody? You don't want to get into it. It's all good. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that stuff happened, and so yeah, there's a lot of scars that happened with that, and a lot of things that I needed to forgive, and I made a decision that I was just going to move on and keep that in the past. And so when the resurface happened, I was confused. But at the same time, I've always had an open heart. I've always forgave people. I don't hold grudges no matter how much they hurt me. I know to keep my distance, and I know how to react in new ways now so that you don't do that again to me. But all in all, there's not one person on this earth that I would call an enemy. There's no one on this earth to this day where I can't have a conversation with and have a productive conversation with. And so I've always been that type. I can't let someone live in my brain with these grudges and, I hate this person. And
especially when it comes to love and a significant other, I like to call myself a forgiving person in my mind. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I think that's one area that I really struggle in is forgiving and forgetting. For me, it's always been the easier route to just be yeah, you're just out of my life now. Right. If it's a significant other that hurt me so deeply, eventually years go by and I get over it. But while it's happening, I'm just bye, Felicia. Right. Don't even come at me. So I think it's great that you're able to be that way in the moment and say, I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm not going to be spiteful towards this person despite them hurting me, because that's not in everybody's heart.
That's part of the dynamics, the forgiving. I was able to forgive, but definitely couldn't forget. Yeah. And a lot of that's just subconscious, where, we just be talking and something will remind me of what happened. And now I'm in that moment. Right. So, yeah, that's a tough part. And that's also still part of the dynamics to this day, even though we do have a child. And yeah, it's a complicated situation. But, I've done a lot of thinking and trying to figure out what's the best way to go about this so that we both can live a fulfilled and happy life and also do what's best for our son. It's one of the most complicated situations. It is the most complicated situation I've been in.
You guys aren't together right now?
No, we're not together.
Were you together during the pregnancy?
No.
Oh, so you guys haven't been together throughout any of it?
Yeah. So again, the pregnancy was an accident. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was unplanned, unexpected. I was in awe, and I was just wow.
What was your initial reaction when she told you?
I couldn't believe it. I was there's no way. You need to go back and do another test. Go back and do another one.
Here, I bought you 5 pregnancy tests. Take them all.
Let's go to the hospital. Let's get an ultrasound. You can't do it that early. But it was just, yeah, it was. I was in shock, and and at the same time, I had to think. I think I like the saying, but I don't like the saying that everything happens for a reason, because I think it gives excuses to a lot of things, but also at the same time, sometimes things happen timing wise to put you in a position to think through what your next direction in life is going to be. And so even though I, originally start dating her back in 2015, for it to happen in that moment, especially with those circumstances, like it was just like, why? I'm looking up above to the man upstairs and God, like, why, and I didn't have answers, but it was like, all right, well, this is going to be a trying and a testing time, and I really got to buckle up and strap down and figure out what the next steps is. And then, just internally think about what my next directions are. Can I see myself with her in the future based off everything that happened? Or do I need to cut that and really focus on co-parenting and doing what's best for Elijah, our son?
Now, when you guys found out and you guys obviously made the decision to move forward, did you guys say, well, hey, we should be together now? Like, we should make this work based on the fact that we are deciding to have a child together? Or was that just never on the table?
No, it was definitely something that was talked about, definitely on her end, because she always envisioned herself with having a family, and that family consisted of, husband, wife, kids, so, and even with me, like I never ever pictured myself not being with a person that I had a child with, but due to these circumstances and my heart being where it was and my emotions just not being readily available to accepting something like that, it was the most difficult thing I had to go through and think through, is that, I didn't want to start off with him being born and like we're separated and, he has to grow up with that, because I've been through that situation.
Right.
My mom's been married 3 times. My dad's been married 4 times. And when I was younger, when I was a little baby, my dad stepped out on my mom and had kids outside of the marriage, and just seeing him go through that, and then also the impact that had on me, and then the impact it had on my brothers and sisters that had the other mother, and it was just a thing that continued to build even up to now when we're still adults. Like, there's still remnants of just that complication, and with them, they felt like he spent more time with us, and so there was this disdain, there was this resentment towards him, and they didn't get to see him for a while because their mother got with another guy, and the other guy didn't like my dad, and so my dad was eliminated out of the equation for some years.
Wow.
And we didn't see him. So I think about all that because they say a lot of things stem from your childhood as far as when you're an adult, and the things, the way you behave and the way you think and your styles, and especially when it comes to relationships. And so I think about all of those things as I'm thinking about the situation with now my son being born and him starting off with that disadvantage of like us not being together. So It's like, it's tough because you want that, but at the same time, if your heart's not prepared or ready for that, or possibly may never be open to that again with that person, what do you do?
Well, I think if parents aren't happy, children aren't happy. So right. I think, me personally, I think you have to do what makes you the happiest and the most fulfilled, because kids feel that. Like, they feel that energy. They feel that unhappiness. So it's like, there might be 2 of y'all in this house, but if you're not happy, that's the energy that's in there. It doesn't really make a difference if there's 2 of you in the house.
And I'm in a place now where I don't know. I don't know if that would make me happy or I will be unhappy. I don't know. I just know right now that I'm in a place where I'm not able to emotionally connect on that level of being in a relationship, especially in a relationship when you got these type of stakes where there is a child involved that you guys are raising and parenting. So it's been a situation where I've had to kind of just sit still, and it's biblical. Out of the Bible, there's many scriptures that talk about just being still and allowing things to come, to manifest, and for there to be this vision and this clarity to where now you can make a decision just based off of just letting things evolve, because the world is always moving, things are always changing. And if I'm not confident in the decision, what I've always done is I just sat still and just waited for it. Not like sitting still in regards to just inaction where I'm not doing anything and I'm just waiting for something to fall in my lap, because I don't expect that, but I expect things to be revealed. As long as I'm doing the right things and I'm being respectful and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a person and as a man, things start to just reveal themselves over time, whether that's people, whether that's opportunities, but as long as I'm doing what I need to do independently, that is within that respect field and still working towards something, it's gonna reveal itself. And so I see that in the same situation is that over time, what's supposed to happen is going to happen. As long as I'm not doing anything to jeopardize it, sabotage it, or just do anything that's negative that would bring it down based off of those decisions.
So now that you're 7 months in as a dad, what's revealed itself so far?
My big thing is, doing what's best for him right now. He's a little guy, right? And I want to spend as much time with him. And I know if we were separated, even though we live like less than 15 minutes apart, there's times where I haven't seen him for a day or two, and that affects me, not being able to see him. And it gives me that firsthand experience of like what it would feel like to be separated and doing the co-parenting thing, not being able to see that. And that kills me because he's such, there's so much growing, and I know he needs me in his life, and I want to be totally in his life until I'm no longer on this earth. Like I want to be that active in his life. And so it's that riddle, it's that conundrum of how do I make this all work? And I think there is some selfishness that needs to occur. Like it's not about me and that's the tough part, because of course I want to be happy, but at the same time I put him above all, and part of that is making sure that I get along with her and that we're respectful for one another. And right now what me and her are really working on is just a friendship, making sure that we can at least be friends, that we can have cordial conversations, that we can enjoy this experience of having a child. That we can go out and do experiences that involve him, and just with no strings attached and no high level commitment, just simply fundamentally just being friends. And then I think from there, what needs to be revealed, as I talked about, as we're just working on that piece, what needs to be revealed will be revealed, whether that's being together or not. What's
the mood and what's the vibe when you guys are around each other now? Because it's like we have this new child, but we're not together. Like, is it sort of like a looming elephant in the room with you two, or is it just normal now at this point? Like, has everybody gotten used to, we co-parent?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely a unique situation. And I think people that are close to the situation, they do understand. They know what it is. They know that we're not together. And, that essentially just trying to work through some things. And, people, I think at the beginning when he was first born, or even when she was pregnant, there was a lot of questions, a lot of people asking questions and just didn't understand and wanted to force us to either do A, B, or C. But I knew what I wanted to do within my parameters, and I communicated with her very heavily. Like, this is how I see things. And don't take this as me being selfish, because, as I'm thinking through these things, I'm also keeping you in mind. And, I want to be respectful towards you in always, right? Like, I don't want you to feel at any given point in time like you're being led along, or I'm dangling this carrot, or I'm being misleading. I don't want any of that to be perceived, and at any given point in time you feel that way, then let's seriously have a conversation. Like, communication has to be a key focal point, and she's naturally been able to communicate to me, and there has been some concerns that she shared, and there's been some tough points, but I think all in all, we talk through those things, we work through them, and then we get past those things and just carry it along. So I think we're in a good place right now, whether, we end up being back together or not.
So that's very much on the table, the conversation of we could possibly get back together.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Now, with that being said, as a possibility, does that mean you're closed off to dating anybody else right now? Is that a possibility, or is it just your complete focus is on your son right now, so you don't want to anyway?
Yeah, I made that patch with myself, and and unwritten to her, I just told her that I wanted to be respectful of what we got going on. So yeah, I haven't dated anybody. I've kept true to that, because I just only think that would complicate things, and I wouldn't want to bring someone else into the equation when it's so cloudy for me. And especially when I'm not even emotionally available for that.
Yeah.
I'm just so solely focused on him, and then also get along with her so that ultimately he's okay. So that's just not even in the equation. And I mean, since she got pregnant, when that was all happening like that, there was, I was considering, another option that didn't work out. But I knew I couldn't push forward with anything else. Like, it's just, I knew that this happened. It happened for a reason. I wanted to concentrate. I didn't want to be juggling,
Right.
because I'm a terrible juggler, and I only know that would just be to my demise, So I just like, all right, I've got to discipline myself and just focus on this. And if my desires get so overwhelmingly that I want to go do something else, then I need to have that conversation. But for now, I need to just strap up and just be disciplined and focused on this. And yeah, I'm not getting all my needs met, but but it's for the greater cause, and I understand that. And I know, again, if I be still, that's the common thing. If I just be still, that everything will reveal itself. And it's no different than people waiting. People that get together and they take this. They take 2 or 3 years. They don't escalate anything. They don't have sex or anything. They wait till marriage. I think I'm in that space, but just in a different element where I'm just here, focused on the situation at hand. Not all my needs are met, and people.
That's the not being selfish.
Yeah, people will lash out like, I need this, I need that, but I'm like, no, I don't need that right now. It would be nice, but due to the circumstances, like I need to be responsible about what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. That's so mature, Greg. Because a lot of men, I think it would be a focus on, but I still got to get my needs met at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And bring other things into it that might complicate it. How have you changed since being a dad? What's the biggest thing that's changed in your life now that you're a dad?
I get that old saying where people say it changes their whole life. They got a whole new mindset. And so I think I'm more motivated ever to be successful. I already was highly driven when I moved out here to LA in 2010. I got to be successful under any means necessary. And so I think with him, it's just an even added layer of motivation, because I want him to thrive, and I want him to look at me as an example of what he can be. And I think I'm going to be the best example for him as he shapes into this human being and this adult. And so, there's a lot of things that change. Like, I don't go out as much. I like spending time with him. Just play time with him. Like, it'll just be me and him in the bed. One day out of the week, I'll just have a stay at home where it's just me and him. It's usually on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I work from home, and we spend the whole day together just kicking it. Like, we just shirts off. He in his diapers. I'm in my drawer.
He got the bottle. I got a beer.
We just like kicking it, and we just stay inside, and it's just that bonding moment. And I didn't know how special parenthood could be, the blessing that it is, and he can't even interact to that level with me yet. He's not talking or anything like that, but he knows who I am, and he's a happy baby. He's always smiling. And just been a great baby. I was talking to my mom the other day about it. She's like, you're the same. You're just this wonderful baby that didn't cry much, and you're just pleasant to be around. And he's the same. And I drop him off at daycare, and it's funny, because sometimes I go and I pick him up from daycare, and all the kids don't want him to go. He's like the popular. And he's only 6 months, going on 7. I'm like, how? So
Elijah, don't go. I gotta get home to my dad, yo.
Little girls grabbing him, don't want him to go. I'm like, he's too young for that. Like, what? But no, it's great, and I've always been about personal development, and I do that a lot. I got a mentor group that I've worked through Kappa League for junior high and high schoolers, where we're just consistently trying to work on them and develop them and give them things and opportunities that they haven't been exposed to. Mm-hmm. And so now that I got my own special little project that I get to work on every single day, I'm like excited. I want to get him involved in so much, and just so that he just becomes an incredible human being. So I think it's like my life mission now to make sure he's going to be like the next Obama.
Do you have any fears around parenthood?
Nah, I think the biggest fear I have is just like if that separation did occur between him and his mother, like having to go around that, like not having to, because I've seen people not get along with the other person, and it causes this rift, and the child is affected, and they don't get to see his kid. I had a friend where, he didn't have custody, and the mother decided to move to a different state, and she didn't notify him till the week of, and there's nothing he can do because he doesn't have any custody rights.
Right.
So she moved halfway across the other side of the country, and like, he's heartbroken, right? And so, I see those scenarios, and you see people with the battling through child support, custody battles, all of that. That's just my biggest. That's my biggest.
I don't know why it has to get ugly like that, though. Like, why does it have to be like that? And the part I never understand is this was a person that you once loved. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're like doing the worst to each other and not seeing that the kids are seeing this. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't always have to be the situation where it's about like revenge or hate. Because I think that's really what it boils down to when people act like that is it takes away everything from the kids and it has nothing to do with them, the way that they're acting. Like they're acting this way for revenge on each other. And inevitably the kids are the ones who suffer. So it's just like, it's sad at the end of the day. It's like, it doesn't have to be like that. It just doesn't.
Right. And, with divorce rates as high as they are, co-parenting, I feel like maybe at an all-time high. I was reading some article where it talked about 66% of couples are either remarried or in a relationship that involves a child from a previous situation. Mm-hmm. And that's a high number, right? And
it's becoming the majority.
Right. And so it's just a thing, like, I don't think necessarily always is talked about, but needs to be talked about a lot is the whole co-parenting thing and how do you work yourself around that and, being able to get along, respect the other person for the greater good of that child. And then also, let's say you're coming in as a stepfather or stepmother, like what is the protocol or what is the proper way to effectively implement yourself where you're not overstepping yourself? Or you're not, so far in the distance that you're not making an impact, and that's hurting the situation.
Yeah, and that's hard because nobody ever tells you. There's really not a lot of resources out there for somebody coming into that situation. Like, well, how do you fit yourself into this family that's already been created? And like, what is your role? Like,
right.
It's not easy. It's just like you sort of have to like figure it out on your own. But I think at the end of the day, if everybody's intentions are to love and support and nurture the children that are involved, you sort of naturally figure it out. But I think it's when there's other intentions involved and people are still angry that things get really murky.
Right. And there's this weird intricacy too of like when you do come in as a step parent, if that relationship no longer works out, I've seen time and time and again that person now leaves the whole situation entirely and they no longer have any interaction with the children that they were helped raising.
Right.
And I never got that dynamic. And that actually happened with me and my mom and my stepdad. He was in the picture for, I want to say from the time I was probably 10 to 17, he was in the picture and he lived in our house. And then I moved off to college and then directly after college, like it didn't work out with him anymore. And like he just went off and went away and I have no contact with him. I ain't talked to him in years. I maybe reached out to him like 2 years ago just to see how he was doing. But like he was in my household for 7 years. He lived with us for 7 years. Like, he raised us to a certain degree from 10 to 17 or 18 actually. He was in my life and he was a great guy, and I learned a lot from him and he taught me a whole bunch. But it's just like the fact that they didn't work out, now we no longer have a relationship. And I'm like,
at that point, I think maybe part of it too was that, I don't know him obviously, but because you were an adult at that point. So it was really, you could choose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you were like 17, 18, like you could choose at that point.
Come on.
I've already told my boyfriend, like, if anything happens with us, I still get to see the kids, right?
See, and you're the minority. You are the minority.
Like I'm literally like when I get mad about something, sometimes I'm like, but I can't let go of the kids even when I don't like him.
You're the minority. And I get, but also I get the other side too. And if it is, it's just tough for you when you're not the biological. And it just depends on what that relationship did look like because now you're not with the biological, for the children, the biological parent. So I don't know, do you have to still interact with them in a way in order to have a relationship with the kid? And so there is that, and then they've already have a mother, right? So It's just like there is that. So I get why people do back. I get it, but I don't get it. It's just one of those weird things. But I don't know. But that's the tough part.
It is tough.
They're so young. They've got to get a fair chance. And everybody around them, they can't have that bitterness going on. Or that tension. And I think about the Carmelo and Lala situation, right? Where Lala got that girl, that mistress, pregnant.
Wait, I haven't exactly been following their situation. What is their situation?
Where you been at?
Sometimes I just don't. I don't follow the news, and I don't like watch TMZ. Like I just have my moments where I'm like, no, it's just all about Tanisha world. I can't be out in the world,
and that's good.
So
a lot of
he had a baby with a mistress.
Yeah, I think it happened like a couple years.
Do they have kids?
Yeah, they got kids, and so Mello stepped out, cheated, got this mistress pregnant, and then did a DNA test, whatever, and they found out that the kid was his, and so he had to confront Lala about it, and that's how they broke up. They were broken up for like a full year, I want to say, because of that situation, and so the woman ended up having the baby, and now Mello has another kid.
Are they back together?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I want to say so. I believe they are back together. But now Mello has some other scandal out there where he was seen on a boat with some woman that he said was married, and the husband was on the boat. It was a whole bad look. But there was articles out there that were saying that Lala didn't want to have any type of interaction with that child from the mistress. Like she didn't want that child around.
That's BS.
Like she just totally
I understand
keep that baby over there.
That's
right?
BS. Because why are you taking that out on a child?
I know.
Did that child ask to be born? So you're going to treat a child a certain way? If you want to treat anybody a certain way, it should be your husband because he is the one who had a commitment to you. This child doesn't owe you nothing. That's unfortunately, the mistress doesn't owe you anything. Like you made vows with your husband.
Yeah.
So if you want to be mad at somebody, like don't dare take it out on a child. I hate that.
Yeah.
Like take it out on whoever you want to take it out on, but not like the child who has nothing to do with anything and is just in the world like needing guidance and support. And now you're going to treat this child like some other.
Yeah, and it's all alleged. I don't know. These are just reports. These are articles.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, you got to be very careful with saying that nowadays.
But I think I just like that makes me sad. Like that just makes me sad for kids.
Right.
Because they can't.
They're born into that.
They're born into that. And like they can't do anything. But like I just don't believe in treating children a certain way based on the actions of their parents. I think that's BS.
Yeah. And that's what you talk about being fearful. That's what I'm fearful with like my son and just other kids in general. Like we've in this world now where we're talking about majority of families now are blended families and co-parents and all that. And, I've my peers, my friends, I've had many conversations with them that, what the relationships that they seen younger affected them when they became adults and how they treated relationships. That stuff carries along with you. And how do you know how to navigate and maneuver in a relationship when all you've seen in your past is breakups and splits? And I know life happens, but, it carries on. And so we live in this environment now, especially in LA, where, the grass is maybe greener on the other side. If things aren't working, we're not going to take the time out to work it out and do the necessary steps. Like I'd rather just walk away from this. Or if some temptation happens, I'm going to just, entertain that in that moment, not even thinking about the long-term effects, especially with the person that I love that I go home to every day. Like there's just so many dynamics now. And I think a lot of it stems from this childhood and what we're being exposed to because of all this. And I know even my childhood, my dad cheated on my mom several times and had 3 kids out of it, right? By the time my dad was 25, he had 5 kids. 2 of them was with my mom, 3 was with another lady, right? So seeing that growing up, like I'm like, and it did affect me. It did impact me on how I seen and how I, even though I was in my younger ages, it impacted like not being able to be committed and doing everything in that one relationship because I didn't know how to do that. And my dad never provided that for me. But I'm not the type of person to use that as an excuse.
Right.
But it does have an impact on you.
So do you feel like you had trouble in your younger years being faithful maybe because you saw that? How did that affect your behavior?
I don't even think it was faithful. Like, I guess I have cheated in my past, but I think it was just more when you find something good, cherishing it, because I didn't see that. I didn't see that growing up. Yeah, I didn't see too much of that. A man that was all about just this one woman that he cared for her, he nurtured her, he showed her all this love and passion and, the public affection, like all of that stuff. Like when you see that stuff, it starts to program within you. But if you don't see it, like it never programs into you. So once you get out there and now you're on your own and you're doing your own thing, you need some of that guidance. And that's one thing, You know, people talk about it all the time is they learn through how they were raised on how they're going to raise their child. And so I know based off of like the mishaps and the missteps that I've seen that how I'm going to parent my son, you know, and one of the things I want to emphasize with him will always be relationships, you know, and the true importance, you know, when you find a woman that that you care about, you know, the things that you need to do to continue to sustain that relationship and not break away from that. Because
the commitment.
To be honest with you, I never had those type of conversations with my dad, even when I was in a relationship. So I look at those things. These are evaluation points that now I know when he gets to that age, these are top level conversations we're going to be having. And I'm not going to be scared to have those conversations with him because I know they're needed and he needs that guidance. Like we get mentors, mentored for jobs and businesses and all of that stuff. But who's mentoring us on the relationship side? You know, it's like you have to go out there and seek that. And not a lot of people are going to seek that. And no one's going to come to you, you know. And yeah, your parents are there and they'll guide you. And a lot of times they're only guiding you when you're having problems. They're not guiding you when you first get into that relationship. Say, hey, look out for these signs, these tall tale signs. There's these warnings. You guys are going to argue. You're not having those conversations. And so I just think about that with him, you know, like.
I love that you're already preparing for the conversations in his early 20s. You're like, okay, so at 21, he's going to bring home a girl and she's going to be great and he might not going to see it right away. So here's what I'm going to tell him.
Man, I just don't want him to fall through those cracks. And I know we're getting married at older ages now, and that could be a good or a bad thing. You know, back in the 60s and 50s, what was the average age of people getting married?
21.
Like 21, 22. Why was that? That's not a necessarily bad thing. It's just that they knew when they found something good to be committed to that thing.
I don't think that was it.
What do you think?
Because also during that time, it was also known that men would have affairs and their wives would just look the other way. So it wasn't necessarily that, okay, I'm 21, I found the person and I'm so committed and this is it. And no, it's like people were going along with what you were supposed to do. So what you were supposed to do was you went to high school, you then went to college, you met somebody in college, you got married, found a job, and started a family. Like that was the norm. And everybody fell into that, right? Like it was just, this is what we do. And so regardless of how people felt or whatever else they had going on, or maybe even in some cases, like their sexuality, they masked everything to fall in line with what was the societal norm at that point. So I don't think it was necessarily people being like, at 21, I just really want to get married. It was like, no, this is just what we do. This is just the societal norm. And I think now we're at a place in the world and in history where you don't have to follow societal norms anymore. Like you can say, yeah, I'm gay. I'm not marrying a woman. Like you can say like, I don't ever want to be married and I'm a 50-something-year-old woman and I don't want kids. Like you can create your own lane. And so I think because of that, it's almost like there's less commitment, but there's more honesty created within that. Like I'm not going to say nobody. A lot of people are no longer lying about who they are and what they want because they feel liberated enough to be able to say, this is who I am, and it doesn't fit into a traditional lane. Like, we're now getting to the point where, yeah, you could be a 40-year-old woman and be like, yeah, I still want children, and that's possible, and I'm going to do that. But if you would have said that in 1960 and you just would have been a single 40-something-year-old woman, people would have been like, bah! Like, she's done with. Like, but it's not like that anymore. So I think, yeah, people are just able to create their own lanes now. But yeah, commitment is harder because access is also easier. So back in the 50s, your access to most of the world was what was within your field of vision. So your access to the people that you were going to potentially date were in your high school or in your college or somebody your parents knew in your hometown, whatever the case may be. But it was a very local atmosphere. Right. But now you're not just confined to, the 20 eligible women that you went to school with or in your college or wherever. It's now the world. Like you can literally be on your phone and be like, let me see what women in India are like. Let me try to date one of them. Let me see what, men in Uganda are like. Let me date one of them. So there's so much more choice now and we're more open. And so, yeah, it's like, well, do I want to settle down and commit to one of the 20 eligible people in my hometown? Or do I want to check out what's in the world? And that's really what it is. It's now people have an obsession with, well, there's so much more out there. Like, what else is there? What else is there? And so it's less enticing to commit.
Right. No, and I totally agree. And I think there's a good and a bad thing to that. I think life has always been a balancing act. Even back then, I think there's some great things that we could still use to this day, or we could re-implement today from the 50s and 60s that would allow for greater life. And at the same time, we've definitely evolved, and these freedoms have opened. That has also created more happiness and more freedom for people. I get that as well. But like the same thing you mentioned, that now you have all these choices, that could be that has been to the detriment to a lot of people, is that there's too many choices. It's like Baskin Robbins. And so the being decisive with one partner and really working on that is becoming a thing of the past. It's just like, as soon as we hit a bump in the road, guess what? There's these 3,200 other people out there that I can connect with, and I'm done with this and I'm gone. And so like, it's so much easier to break away now because of the choices it could be a good thing, but at the same time, we talk about just happiness level. I don't think they were any more happier or unhappier back then based off of that model that they grew up in versus like this model and all these choices that we have. Like, I still think like there's still I
think you're right about that.
A equal level of happiness that's being explored no matter what decade, right? So yeah, and that all falls to balances. But I just think we just have too many choices, and we're no longer really trying to heal and repair relationships. Otherwise, we're stepping out of it. We have this baggage. We have this baggage as we're stepping away from. We're just bringing that baggage into the next situation. So
you're right. Like, people don't often take the time that they need to heal because they use another person at times to fill that void. So it's like, this went wrong in this relationship. Okay, I'm out of it. I'm moving on to the next thing. And then they carry everything with them. And then they're using that person to fill that void versus like healing what the core issue was that they were dealing with or why they left.
Right. I know you're having Rico on the show. Rico introduced me to this concept called circles. And circles it's something that he learned from this organization called the Mankind Project, where you get a group of people together and you literally sit in a circle and you talk about life. You just talk about life challenges, life successes, what you're going through, in a structured way where you're asking specific questions. You go around in a circle, next round, go in a circle, and you can share. And the beautiful thing about these circles, and we just recently, me and Rico, we did one with just black men, which was so powerful, is because us as black men in this room, it was, how many of it was 5 of us? And I mean, we share some vulnerable stuff, we're communicating about what we're going through relationship wise, business wise. And what we found out is like, there's so much common thread between us as far as like the struggles and the challenges. And as you're hearing things from someone else going through what they're going through, it makes you feel better, about the things that you're going through, saying, you know what, someone else going through it, I can make it out just like they're processing through it. And so
that's dope, by the way.
It's pretty, I got introduced to it out here and I love it. And it's therapy to me, but I think more people need things like that, especially when it's around relationship. Me being part of those circles has helped me so much as far as like lamenting like what I want out of a relationship. And even when I've gone through my struggles, especially in this complicated situation that I'm in, I've been able to go to those circles and be able to just express myself in a way, and then also hear feedback coming from them as well. Like, this is how I would tackle this. And like the last circle I went to, I said my piece about what I was going through. The very next day, one of the brothers sent a link from YouTube about relationship styles it was like a 10-minute video that talked about like different relationship styles that people go through. The 4 were avoidant, anxious, fearful, and secure.
Oh, the attachment styles.
Yeah, the attachment style. Mm-hmm. So
that's a great book, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm watching that and I'm like connecting with it, and I know that I'm the avoidant type. I know my relationship style has been avoidance, like the eye contact and the hugging and like not getting too close, because it shows signs of vulnerability, and you don't want to give too much vulnerability because that person hurts you. And then,
right.
And so, but my whole ultimate goal is to get to that secured place, in that style. And so, like, just watching that video, I'm like, man, there's levels, and I know that what I need to work on. And I think a lot of the times, like, we just don't know what we need to work on. Like, we just know we're struggling, but there's no resources out there.
You can't identify it.
So that's what's great about these circles. And like, I wanted to get started. I've been talking to Rico about this for last year, like trying to expand that to more people because it's such great work. And I think it's a new element. Like, I look at it like yoga, how yoga started very local and then it just expanded and everybody was doing, like, people need this type of mental therapy, this type of mental yoga in their lives where they can go into a circle, share things that they're struggling with and leave better than when they came, right? So it's an incredible concept.
To tap on what you said before, I think it's so important when people understand that they're not the only one going through something.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the reason I do the podcast, is because we need to share more about the things that are happening with us. Because when you don't feel isolated, like, you feel connected to people more and you feel like you can tackle something. But when you just feel like, I'm the only person going through this thing, nobody else has ever been through it, nobody else understands, it feels so insurmountable. But when you understand, like, this has been happening to people, this is how they get through it, and it's okay, and you will be okay, it just takes a weight off.
Right. You do not want to you don't want to feel like you're on the island. And that's what these circles are all about. Is like, now you've got a group of people that you just shared an intimate moment. And a lot of times it's strangers. I've probably been to 25 circles, and every time it's just a whole group of new people. Like, some of the people are similar and I've seen before, but mostly it's always new people that are coming in. And so it's beautiful because you're getting these different elements from people from different walks of life.
I love the idea of that.
And we got to share more, because really think about, like, when you're going through something, like, you typically share it with one or two, maybe three different people, like on a very intimate, deep level. And the thing about these circles is that you do have to open up and be vulnerable. You are sharing it with strangers, and not everybody's comfortable with that. I've had friends that showed up like, I'm not about to share.
I don't know these people.
I am not sharing. No, like, they're just refusing to answer some of the questions. And so that's like a disclaimer now. It's like, you've got to come in with an open mind. And it's really about the growth and development of you.
And that's the best way to get feedback.
Exactly.
Because sometimes your friends are too close to you, your friends and your family.
And they're always going to side with you.
They're always going to side with you, and they're always they're on it with you, just the emotional roller coaster, the ups and downs, and they can't really see it from an outsider's perspective because they're so in.
Right.
But sometimes it's nice to just say something to somebody that doesn't know you and you don't know them, and they're really just giving it to you like, here's how I see it from the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. And you need that sometimes.
Exactly. And I wish I could share some of the stories, but we make like almost like an NDA, like an agreement that whatever says in the circle stays in the circle.
Which is great. So it seems like over the last year, you've had a lot of growth, including going to these circles. What do you want now going into a relationship? Like, what's your ideal for your future and the relationships that you want to build?
I think as I've grown older, I am now 34 years old, that I've just kind of learned I know what I want. I know what my emotions are and how I'm feeling. Like, I think I'm very in touch with myself, and I just don't want to do anything that's fabricated, anything that's fake, or anything that's forced. I want to do something that's organic, and that I feel it from the moment that it conceptualizes. Like, I feel it. And so I think with the relationship, when it's that time to jump back in that space, it's just that I feel it, and I 110% feel committed to it. And I'm okay with it not being right now, even with the circumstances that are in front of me. Like, if it doesn't happen in the situation that I'm in, then that's okay. We'll have to do co-parent and I'll figure it out. But I got to be true to myself. I think I've got into a maturity point now where it's just like, anything that I do, it has to be true and it has to feel right. And I have to be 110% in belief of it. If I'm halfway, then I'm just not doing it. And I've had to cut out many things in the last year or two just because I halfway felt it. And, I didn't want to do a disservice to whoever was involved in it. And I didn't want to do a disservice to myself. And so I'm in this very weird place right now.
It's a good place.
Yeah, but I'm in a happy place,
Yeah.
right? Because nothing feels forced.
Isn't that the best feeling, though?
Yeah.
Like, really, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, the best feeling to walk into every room that you walk into and you're like, I want to be here.
Right.
I'm not forcing it. Mm-hmm. Like, whether that be work or with friends or anything, just feeling like this is the thing I'm doing right now is the thing I want to be doing. Like, that is the most liberating feeling ever.
It is. And, you know, I don't want to be held captive to society's norms. Like, you have to now be in that because you have a child, or you have, like, why are you this age and you're not in a relationship, in a committed relationship? I don't want to fall victim to those things and what the pressure that society puts on you. I'm just literally taking it day by day. And, you know, as I communicate that, sometimes it's not always well received. Like, what does that mean, day by day? Like, you can't, like, you got to make a decision. And I'm like, no, I don't have to make a decision. And, like, anyone that doesn't want to be a part of what I'm doing because I haven't made a certain decision, I totally respect it. And, like, then that's your decision, and that's okay. But then at the same time, it makes me then be able to make a decision about that situation if you decide to depart from it, right? And I don't expect anybody to wait for me. I never have. But if I don't feel it, I'm not, you know, because I've been through a lot of heartbreak. I've been through a lot of pain. I've been through breakups. You know, I've been through a whole lot. And so, you know, to eliminate that continuing to happen, it's about timing and what and my pace, right? And there's some selfishness to that, but that's okay because it's my emotions, and I don't want to be out here depressed and hurt. And like I gotta truly believe in something. Me and, let's say, my brother, we're totally two different people. My brother's a couple years younger than me. He'll meet somebody tomorrow and be like, I'm about to marry her. That's just his nature. And he's posting on Facebook the next week pictures with him and her. I'm like, you just met her. But that's his style. And like he's impulsive like that, and he leads with his heart first. And I respect it. I wish I had a little bit more of that myself, but I don't. Like, I'm much different. Like, I like to sit back, scan the room, you know, see who you talking to, who you been with, like what things you struggling with. All right, you struggling with that? Let me take a couple of days to think through that, and like, and
you're much more methodical in that way.
Methodical, exactly. And it doesn't always work out because, you know, a person has to be patient when they're dealing with me, and I'm just sorry. I know that about myself. If you're not
they're
patient,
like, you took too long. Sorry.
Yeah, and I've lost out on some good opportunities because of that. But that's just how I process things. And if somebody can't accept me for who I am, then what do you do?
I actually do think you're a person that maybe you don't lead with your heart, but it definitely comes into play quite a bit. I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because once I'm connected and I'm there with you, then I'm there with you, and I'm not going anywhere, you know. And then again, like that forgiveness part. If I've gave you so much of my heart, you know, you can do some of the most unforgiving things, you know, and then there's still a space for me to forgive you, you know, as time passes, right? If you've held a special part of my heart, right? So that's the reason why I'm so methodical, because I know once you're in, you're in, and that gate in, like, you family, you family, right?
So what is next for you?
What's next for me? That's a vague question, man. There's so much. It's
any way you want to answer it. It's purposely vague.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with me. You know, I'm career driven. The real estate thing is going really well. I've sold almost 20 million in sales over the past 12 months.
Okay.
But what I'm really trying to do with the real estate thing is, you know, me being a person of color is really putting us out there in this Los Angeles market. There's not a whole lot of us doing really well. And I just feel like there should be more of us doing well. When I first started real estate, I remember my broker, he told me, you know, we got to concentrate on Compton and just South LA, just the back populations. And like the price points over there, like 300,000-400,000. I'm just like,
so wait, specifically are telling you gotta market.
That was a strategy. Compton? Yeah. Like, you need to just focus on those areas. Yeah. Because I'm black, they black, and it's just supposed to work. And I'm just like, why? You know?
I'm trying to sell more than 300K.
And I'm coming from a corporate environment, right? Where, you know, I'm like one of the few black people. And then you learned how to navigate, you know, in those environments. Right. And so I'm like, I don't subscribe to that. Like, why can't I go over there?
Why can't I sell in Malibu?
To Venice, to Venice and sell at 1.1 or 1.5. Why can't I? You know, I think I have the skill set. All I'm doing is succumbing to this stereotype that I only stick. So I'm like, no. And so, you know, I went against that conventional wisdom and said, no, and I joined a new brokerage where it allowed me exposure to get into like the Manhattan beaches and the Hermosas and Palos Verdes, which are these multi-million-dollar areas. And I've been successful. I've been closing. I've closed on a 2.4 in Palos Verdes. I'm closing on 1.6 in Manhattan Beach, or 1.4 in Redondo Beach. Like, I've been actually doing it. And
I'm so proud of you, Greg. That's
look like
awesome.
me and don't look like me. Majority of the people that I closed are not, black. And so it's like, you got to open your horizons. And so my whole goal is just to continue to take over in that. And I'm relatively new in the real estate world. I've only had my license for 5 years, and the average real estate agent is like 50, 55, right? I've been through my fair share of hurdles too. Like, I've definitely had a lot of pain points as I've continued to try to elevate. But I look at all that as it's just
part of the growing pains.
Yeah, it's part of the growing pains, and it's just, a story to tell that ultimately continues to help me elevate. And so it's been good, and I enjoy it, and I just feel like from years from now, like it's gonna be great. And my whole thing is to pull others from their bootstraps and pull them up, that look like me, saying, yo, you can do this as well. So that's like the whole ultimate goal with the real estate side. And I think I can build something great.
Now I'm over here like, should I move to LA and sell real estate?
Join the team.
Well, where can people reach out to you?
People could reach out to me on my Instagram, GBanksInLA, GBANKSINLA. That page is very real estate and motivational. So I think, come follow me.
Thank you so much, Greg, for coming on again. And I feel like every time you come on, like you're at a different but like elevated space from the last time. So I feel like the next time you're going to come on, you're going to be like,
married.
So I'm married now.
And it could be a year from now.
So come on season 4.
Yeah.
Whatever the update is, I need to hear what's happening next year.
Is this season 3?
This is season 3. You were on season 2.
3 now.
So now you're regular.
Hey, in a year, I could very well be married, another kid, whatever, because all of this happened within a year from that last
I know.
podcast,
like I said, I went on your Instagram like, wait, let me scroll back.
So the moral of that story is anything can happen in a year. Have faith and belief. Things can turn around. 'Cause in a year, it could be totally different.
Exactly.
Look at my story.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
All right, I appreciate it.
Please reach out to me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let me know what you think of today's show. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.